The rain hammered against the windshield like 1,000 accusations, each drop blurring the neon lights of Brooklyn into a smeared watercolor of regret. Anthony gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles whitened, his heart pounding louder than the storm outside, as he pulled up to the curb outside that godforsaken brownstone on Pacific Street. He'd driven through hell to get here, through the lies, the late nights, the way Sarah's perfume lingered on collars that weren't his, fueled by a single, burning question: how could you steal my life? He slammed the car door, the sound swallowed by the downpour, and stormed up the slick steps, his loafers slipping on the wet concrete. The door loomed like a judge's gavel, and before doubt could claw its way back in, Anthony pounded on it with a fist that felt foreign, heavy with betrayal. When it creaked open, there stood Joseph, tall, broad-shouldered, with rain-darkened hair curling at his temples and eyes like smoked whiskey, holding a dish towel like a white flag of surrender. "You must be Anthony," Joseph said, his voice low and steady, cutting through the thunder like a lifeline tossed into a riptide. There was no smirk, no defiance, just a quiet recognition that twisted something deep in Anthony's gut, something that wasn't rage at all. For a split second, the world narrowed to the space between them, the steam rising from Joseph's skin where the rain met warmth, the faint scent of garlic and red wine wafting from inside, the way his flannel shirt clung just enough to hint at the man beneath. Anthony's breath caught, a hook lodged in his throat, and he realized with a jolt that this wasn't the villain he'd imagined. This was something far more dangerous, a mirror reflecting the parts of himself he'd buried under years of straight-laced suburbia and wedding vows. "I know why you're here," Joseph continued, stepping aside not in fear, but invitation. "Come in before you drown. We need to talk." Anthony hesitated, the rain tracing cold rivers down his collar, but his feet betrayed him, carrying him over the threshold into a warmth that smelled of home-cooked sin. The apartment was a chaos of exposed brick and mismatched furniture, books stacked like Jenga towers, a half-finished puzzle of the Manhattan skyline on the coffee table. It screamed alive in a way his sterile McMansion in Westchester never had. Sarah's laughter echoed from somewhere in Anthony's memory, high, tinkling, like wind chimes in a hurricane, but here felt like a ghost. "Sit," Joseph said, gesturing to a worn leather armchair that sagged invitingly. He disappeared into the kitchen, returning with 2 mugs of steaming coffee, black as midnight. Anthony took one, the heat searing his palms, a welcome distraction from the fire building elsewhere. "You're sleeping with my wife," Anthony blurted, the words tumbling out raw and jagged. He hadn't meant to sound so broken, but there it was, cracked open like an eggshell underfoot. Joseph nodded, sinking onto the couch opposite him, elbows on knees, mug cradled like a confession. "Yeah, I am. And I'm sorry for the pain that's caused you. But Sarah, she came to me 6 months ago, lost. Said her marriage was a cage she didn't know how to escape." Anthony's laugh was bitter, echoing off the walls. "A cage? That's rich. We built that life together, mortgage, promotions, the whole American dream. And you're just the handyman fixing leaks in the plumbing." Joseph's eyes met his, unflinching. "I'm a contractor. Yeah. But I'm not here to justify. I fell for her fire, her wit. But it's not just about her." He paused, the air thickening. "Look, Anthony, I didn't ask for this drama. Sarah said you were distant, that you'd both been drifting." "Distant?" Anthony's voice rose, a whip crack in the cozy space. He leaned forward, coffee sloshing perilously. I've been grinding at the firm 12 hours a day to keep us afloat, while she's out volunteering at that community center where you volunteer too. The sarcasm dripped like the rain outside, but beneath it, a tremor of hurt, of something unnamed. Joseph set his mug down, leaning in too, their knees almost brushing. I get it. You're the provider, the rock. But rocks crack under pressure. Sarah's not the villain here. Neither am I. And you're not either. The words hung there, soft as a caress, and Anthony felt the room spin. Joseph's face was close now, strong jaw shadowed with stubble, lips parted just enough to reveal the vulnerability in his gaze. It was the first time in years Anthony had felt seen, not as the husband or the lawyer, but as a man unraveling at the seams. Tell me to leave, Anthony whispered, hating the plea in his tone. Tell me to fight for her, or walk away clean. Joseph reached out, his hand hovering before settling on Anthony's knee. A touch electric, grounding. I can't. Because the truth, when she talked about you, I saw someone I wanted to know. Not hate. The rain pounded harder, a symphony to the chaos in Anthony's chest. He should have pulled away, stormed out into the night. Instead, he stayed, the mug cooling in his hands, as Joseph began to unravel the threads of how it started. A leaky faucet at the community center, Sarah's easy smile, late-night talks that blurred into touches. But woven through it was Joseph himself, a Brooklyn native who'd clawed his way out of foster homes, built a life from blueprints and grit, always chasing connection in a city that chewed up dreamers. Anthony listened, the anger ebbing like a receding tide, replaced by a pull he couldn't name. Joseph's voice was gravel and honey, wrapping around stories of lost brothers and rebuilt lives. And for the first time, Anthony shared his own, the pressure of Yale law, the wedding that felt like a checklist, the nights staring at the ceiling wondering if this was all there was. Hours slipped by, the storm outside mirroring the one within. When Joseph finally stood to refill the coffee, Anthony caught his wrist, gentle, exploratory, skin on skin, warm and real. Joseph's breath hitched, eyes darkening, and in that suspended moment, the world tilted. I shouldn't, Anthony murmured, but his body leaned in, drawn like gravity. Then don't, Joseph replied, but he didn't move away. Their lips met tentatively, a brush of uncertainty that ignited into something fierce, salty with rain and unspoken longing. It was Anthony's first kiss with a man, a revelation crashing over him like the thunder outside. This was what he'd been missing, the spark in the dark. They broke apart, gasping, foreheads pressed together. What the hell am I doing? Anthony whispered, terror and thrill warring in his veins. Joseph cupped his face, thumb tracing his jaw. Living. Finally. But as dawn crept in, gray light filtering through grimy windows, reality clawed back. Sarah's text buzzed on Anthony's phone. Where are you? We need to talk. The bubble burst, and Anthony fled into the morning mist, Joseph's taste lingering like a promise or a curse. Back in Westchester, the house felt like a mausoleum. Sarah was in the kitchen, eyes red-rimmed, a half-packed suitcase at her feet. I know about last night, she said, voice steady but shattered. Joseph called. Said you showed up. Anthony's stomach dropped. He told you, she nodded, crossing her arms. He cares about you, and more than he lets on. And honestly, I think that's why this fell apart. I was running from us, But maybe we both were. The confession hung heavy, a prelude to the unraveling. Sarah admitted the affair had started as escape, but soured into guilt. "I love you," she said, tears spilling. "But not like that anymore. And you? I saw it in your eyes when you talked about him. Go find your truth." Divorce papers signed by noon, a hasty affair that left Anthony hollowed out. He drove back to Brooklyn that evening, the city a blur of honking cabs and steam vents, his mind a whirlwind. Joseph opened the door shirtless, tool belt slung low, mid-renovation on a cabinet. "You came back." "I had to," Anthony said, stepping inside, the door clicking shut like fate's lock. They didn't speak, words were superfluous now. Joseph's hands were calloused maps, guiding Anthony through uncharted territory. Kisses that deepened from tentative to consuming, bodies pressing in a dance of discovery. That night, tangled in sheets that smelled of sawdust and sweat, Anthony whispered confessions into Joseph's neck. The crushes buried in college dorms, the porn tabs closed in haste, the life built on denial. Joseph held him through it, murmuring affirmations in that Brooklyn drawl. His own scars laid bare, rejections from family, the foster kid's armor of independence. But dawn brought shadows. Sarah's lawyer called, assets frozen pending mediation. Whispers at the firm, Anthony's splitting, messy as hell. And Joseph, a text from an ex, he's trouble, runs when it gets real. Weeks blurred into a fever dream of stolen moments and seismic shifts. Anthony's days were courtroom battles in midtown high-rises, suits starched to perfection masking the chaos beneath. Nights belonged to Joseph, rooftop beers overlooking the East River, where the skyline twinkled like distant stars, and hands intertwined under threadbare blankets. Joseph's laugh was a rumble that vibrated through Anthony's chest, chasing away the ghosts of what-ifs. "You're glowing, man," his colleague Marcus noted over lunch at a deli on Wall Street, pastrami sandwiches sweating in paper. "Divorce treating you well?" Anthony smirked, dodging. "Something like that, but inside, it was a revelation." Joseph introduced him to dive bars in Williamsburg, where drag queens slung shots with sassy wisdom, and to quiet walks in Prospect Park, where autumn leaves crunched underfoot like fragile promises. For the first time, Anthony felt the pulse of New York not as a grind, but as a heartbeat syncing with his own. Yet cracks spiderwebbed beneath the surface. Sarah's mediation sessions were civil but cutting, divvying up the house, the savings, the dog named Max who whined at Anthony's absence. "You deserve happiness," she said one rainy afternoon in a sterile conference room, her ring finger bare. "Even if it's with him." Anthony's cheeks burned. "How'd you know?" "Before I did," she smiled sadly. "Because I know you, and Joseph's not the enemy. He was my wake-up call to let you go." Gratitude warred with guilt, but it was Joseph's world that pulled him deeper. One evening, after a brutal day of depositions, Anthony arrived at the brownstone to find Joseph elbow-deep in wiring a new fixture, sweat beading on his brow. "Rough one?" Joseph asked, wiping his hands on jeans frayed at the knees. "Worse. Clients lying through his teeth. Juries stacked." Anthony collapsed onto the couch, head in hands. Joseph knelt before him, strong hands massaging tense shoulders. "Hey. Breathe. You're not the fraud here." His touch lingered, thumbs circling knots, and soon Anthony was pulling him down, their bodies aligning in a rhythm as old as desire itself. In the afterglow, pillows askew, Joseph traced patterns on Anthony's chest. Ever think about coming out? To the firm. Your folks. Anthony stiffened. My dad's a retired cop in Jersey, old school. Mom's all bridge club and brunch. And the partners? They'd whisper divorce distraction, louder than ever. Joseph propped on an elbow. Eyes searching. I get it. I didn't tell my crew until last year. Lost a job over it. But hiding is like building on sand. The word stung. Prophetic. That weekend, they escaped to the Catskills. Joseph's beat-up truck rattling up winding roads. Autumn foliage ablaze in reds and golds. A rented cabin by a lake. Wood smoke curling from the chimney. Felt like a bubble world. They hiked trails slick with fallen leaves. Joseph's backpack stuffed with craft beers and sandwiches. At the summit, overlooking valleys stitched with rivers, Joseph pulled out a small box. Not a ring, he grinned, flipping it open to reveal a key on a leather cord. To the brownstone. If you want it. Anthony's throat tightened, the weight of it profound. Joseph. Kiss me first. Overthink later. Their embrace there, wind whipping, was a vow etched in crisp air, lips fierce, hands clutching as if the cliff could crumble. Back in the city, the idol shattered. Anthony's phone buzzed during a partners meeting. A photo from an unknown number, him and Joseph, mid-kiss on that rooftop, time-stamped weeks ago. Tell the truth or this goes viral. Your call. Panic clawed up his spine. He bolted to the bathroom, splashing water on his face, staring at the mirror's accusation. Who? Sarah wouldn't. An ex of Joseph's? The firm? He confronted Joseph that night over takeout Thai, the apartment thick with curry and tension. Someone's got pics. Blackmail. Joseph's face paled, fork clattering. Shit. Remember that bar in Bushwick? The one with the bad lighting? Anthony nodded, dread pooling. Ex of yours. Worse. My brother, Danny. Foster kid turned hustler. Spotted us. Snapped it. He's got a grudge. Thinks I bailed when he needed cash last year. Betrayal's bitter taste flooded Anthony's mouth. Not Joseph's, but the world's cruelty. What does he want? Money. Always money. Joseph's voice cracked, the unbreakable facade fracturing. I left that life behind, but it follows. They paid. $5,000 scraped from Anthony's savings, wired anonymously. Danny vanished, but the damage lingered like smoke. Anthony's sleep fractured with nightmares of headlines. Top lawyer's secret affair exposed. Still, they clung tighter. Joseph cooked Sunday dinners. Brisket slow roasted till it fell apart. Greens from the market. Stories of his abuela's recipes. Anthony opened up about his bisexuality's quiet denial. The college fling with a roommate chalked up to experimentation. I thought it was a phase, he admitted, wine loosening tongues. Sarah was safe. Predictable. Joseph squeezed his hand. Safe's a slow death. This is the plot twist. But twists multiply. Sarah called. Voice trembling. Danny approached me too. Said he'd leak it unless I paid double. I didn't. But Aunt. He's unhinged. Rage ignited. Anthony drove to Danny's last known flop in the Bronx. A derelict walk-up reeking of piss and despair. Danny slouched on the stoop, gaunt and wired, cigarette dangling. Fancy lawyer boy. Come to play hero? Leave us alone, Anthony growled, fists balled. Or I bury you in lawsuits till you rot. Danny laughed. A wheeze. Us? You and Joey? Cute. But family's family. He owes me. He's not your keeper. The words echoed Joseph's own burdens, and Anthony saw the cycle, abandonment breeding vengeance. A scuffle ensued, brief and brutal. Danny lunging, Anthony shoving, a neighbor yelling from a window. Joseph arrived then, tires screeching, hauling Anthony back. Enough, Danny. Get help. Rehab. Whatever. But this ends. Brother stared brother. A chasm of lost years. Danny spat, but slunk away. The photos deleted, or so they swore. Relief was fleeting. Holiday season descended. Manhattan a glitter of lights and forced cheer. Anthony's family dinner in Jersey was a minefield. Dad's gruff toasts to traditional values. Mom's probing about the divorce. A man needs a woman to keep him straight, Dad muttered over turkey. Oblivious. Anthony excused himself, stepping onto the porch into biting cold. Dialing Joseph. I can't do this facade anymore. Then don't. Come home to me. The line crackled with promise. But as Anthony hung up, a car pulled up. Sarah. Eyes haunted. Danny's back. And he's got more than photos this time. A video. From the cabin. The world tilted again. Betrayal's knife twisting deeper. Not just Danny's, but the fragility of their fragile new world. Christmas Eve snow blanketed Brooklyn in hush. But inside Joseph's apartment, tension crackled like overtaxed wiring. Anthony paced the living room, phone clutched like a grenade, the video thumbnail burning in his mind. Grainy footage of their summit embrace, Danny's shadow lurking in the pines. How? We were alone. Joseph slumped against the counter, whiskey in hand, face etched with exhaustion. He tailed me. Knew the truck. God. And I'm sorry. This is my poison spilling into your life. Anthony stopped, cupping Joseph's face, stubble rough under palms. Our life. But we end this. Tonight. They bundled up, scarves wound tight, and trekked through drifts to Danny's Bronx haunt, the city a ghost town of twinkling facades. The walk-up loomed, holiday lights mocking from a neighbor's window. Danny answered shirtless, track marks faint on arms. Ice feral. Ho ho ho, boys. Merry blackmail. Hand it over, Joseph demanded, voice steel. The drive, the phone, everything. Danny smirked, dangling a USB like bait. $20K. Wire it, or junior lawyer sees rainbow colors splashed across LinkedIn. Anthony's blood boiled. Visions of career implosion. Family disownment. You think this is a game? You're bleeding your own brother dry. Brother, Danny sneered, stepping forward, breath sour. You left me in that shithole foster joint while you played house in Brooklyn. Now pay up. The shove came from nowhere. Danny's palm cracking against Joseph's cheek, a red bloom spreading. Anthony surged, tackling him to the grimy floor, fists flying in a blur of adrenaline and fear. Punches landed dull thuds, Danny's nose crunching under Anthony's knuckles, warm blood slicking fingers. But Joseph hauled him off, breath ragged. Stop, he's not worth the cuffs. Danny curled fetal, wheezing laughs. Touché. Drives yours for 10. And a promise. Stay out my life. They left with the USB. Snow erasing footprints like sins forgiven. But the violence clung. A stain. Back home, Anthony washed blood from hands in the sink. Joseph's arms encircling from behind. You fought for me? Joseph murmured, lips on neck. No one's ever. Their lovemaking that night was desperate. Bodies slamming in rhythm to unspoken vows. Skin slick with sweat and snowmelt. Gasps mingling in the dim glow of string lights. Anthony arched under Joseph's weight, nails raking back. The world reduced to this heat. Heartbeat. Home. New Year's brought fragile peace. The video destroyed. Danny ghosted rumors of a Greyhound to Philly. Anthony came out at the firm. A terse email to HR. Personal update. I'm queer. Support appreciated. Responses trickled. Awkward congrats from Marcus. Icy silence from the old guard. But he kept his desk. His drive. Spring unfurled. Cherry blossoms dusting Prospect Park like confetti. Picnics became ritual. Joseph's famous empanadas. Anthony's guilty pleasure rom-coms streamed on a picnic blanket. You're turning me soft, Joseph teased, feeding him a bite, sauce lingering on lips kissed away. You're turning me bold, Anthony countered, heart swelling. But boldness bred exposure. A profile in Out magazine, from closeted lawyer to out and proud, garnered buzz, then bile, anonymous emails decrying agenda, dad's radio silence stretching weeks. The real fracture came in May, at a fundraiser gala in the plaza, crystal chandeliers dripping opulence, power suits schmoozing. Anthony, arm linked with Joseph's in a tailored tux that hugged his frame, felt eyes like lasers. Whispers slithered. That's the one who left his wife for the handyman. Sarah appeared then, radiant in emerald silk, a new bow on her arm, a gallery owner with easy charm. Aunt, she said, hugging him tight. You look free. They chatted, old rhythms resurfacing, until her beau excused himself. I have news, she whispered. I'm pregnant. The words landed like a gut punch. His, she nodded, hand on belly. But Danny. He contacted me again. Not for money. For forgiveness. Says Joseph's poison rubbed off. Anthony's jaw clenched. He's manipulating you. Maybe. But it got me thinking. Our marriage wasn't just drift. It was denial on both sides. You for him, me for stability. Joseph, sensing the shift, pulled Anthony aside to the balcony. City lights sprawling below. Talk to me. It's nothing, Anthony lied, but Joseph's gaze peeled layers. The confession spilled. Sarah's baby, the echo of what they'd lost. Joseph's face shuddered, old insecurities rising. You regret? Us? God. No. Anthony gripped his lapels, pulling close. But it hurts. The what could have beens. They kissed under stars, fierce and reaffirming, but doubt seeded. Days later, Joseph's crew ribbed him at a site in Queens. Lawyer boys slumming it? Watch he trades you for a suit. Joseph laughed it off, but the barbs lodged. One night, post-argument over Anthony's late hours, Joseph snapped, You're still half in that world. The one that chews up guys like me. Anthony recoiled. And you're pushing me away because Danny's ghost haunts you. The door slam echoed. Joseph storming to the spare room. First fracture in their sanctuary. Reconciliation came slow. Apologies over diner pancakes at 2 a.m. Hands bridging the gap. But summer heat amplified tensions. A weekend in the Hamptons, Joseph's gift, funded by a big Reno job, promised escape. Beaches stretched golden, waves crashing like applause. They body surfed till pruned, then made love on sun-warmed sheets. Joseph's whispers of forever blending with ocean roar. Yet on the drive back, radio droning traffic. Joseph's phone buzzed, Danny. From a Philly shelter. Clean. Need to make amends. Come see me. Joseph's grip whitened on the wheel. He wants family. Anthony nodded, throat tight. Go. But we go together. The reunion in a sterile Philly waiting room was raw. Danny gaunt but clear-eyed. Tattoos faded under fluorescent. Joey. And thanks for coming. Words tumbled, apologies, tears, tales of rock bottom. Danny's hand in Joseph's. A bridge mended. Anthony watched, heart aching with hope, until Danny's gaze sharpened, heard about the magazine. Brave. But watch your back. World eats its young. The warning lingered, prophetic. Back in New York, Anthony's caseload exploded. A high-profile merger, 16-hour days. Joseph adapted, but resentment simmered. Cold dinners, silent TV nights. Climax brewed on a sweltering August eve. Anthony, drained from a deposition, arrived home to find Joseph packing, toolboxes stacked, duffel zipped. What's this? I'm out, Joseph said, voice flat. You chose the grind. I can't compete with boardrooms. Anthony's world fractured. Compete? This is us against it all. Joseph's eyes glistened. Then why does it feel like I'm the side plot? He turned, but Anthony grabbed his arm, spinning him into a crushing embrace. Don't, Anthony begged, lips crashing desperate. They tumbled to the floor, clothes shedding in fury, bodies warring, loving, a tempest of need. Joseph's moans filled the room, hands pinning wrists, but in the release, truth surfaced. I love you, Joseph gasped, spent. But I'm scared of losing you to that life. Anthony held him, tears mingling. Then let's rewrite it. Together, autumn winds stripped leaves from Central Park elms, mirroring the bareness in Anthony's soul as he and Joseph navigated the aftermath. Couples therapy in a Soho loft, earthy scents of sage and leather, a counselor named Riley with wire-rim glasses and no-nonsense vibe, became their lifeline. Vulnerability isn't weakness, Riley intoned, as they dissected fears, Joseph's abandonment scars, Anthony's perfectionist cage. Sessions bled into dates. Ferry rides to Staten Island, where Lady Liberty loomed maternal, and Joseph sketched blueprints on napkins, dreams of their own fixer-upper, a brownstone with a garden for summer barbecues. Anthony, inspired, delegated cases, carving space for them. Boardroom whispers faded. A junior associate even asked for coming-out advice over beers. Sarah's baby shower, neutral tones in a Tribeca loft, pastel balloons bobbing tested waters. She glowed, hand on swell, her bow beaming. Meet Mia, she said, pressing a sonogram into Anthony's palm. Envy twisted, but Joseph squeezed his hand under the table, grounding. Your uncle-aunt now, Sarah teased. I soft. And Joseph. Thanks for making him whole. Danny's amends extended. Weekly calls. Joseph's voice warming with tales of Philly job hunts. He's trying, Joseph confided one night, curled on the couch, Anthony's head in lap. Like us, winter gripped the city in iron. Holidays a gauntlet. Anthony's family dinner redux. Dad's handshake firmer. Mom's questions tentative. This Joseph. He treats you right. Anthony nodded, introducing via FaceTime. Joseph's grin disarming. Yes, ma'am. He's the real deal. New Year's Eve on a Times Square rooftop. Confetti cannons. Bass thumping. They toasted with champagne flutes. Joseph's arm around waist. To plot twists, he murmured, kiss deepening amid cheers. But betrayal's shadow loomed insidious. In February, Anthony's firm landed a whale client, a conservative PAC with ties to anti-LGBTQ lobbying. The merger meant billable hours soaring, prestige peaking, but at what cost? Sign the engagement, the senior partner urged. Cigars in the conference room. It's business, Anthony signed, stomach churning, rationalizing, separate from us. But Joseph saw the late nights return, the distance creeping. Spring thaw brought bloom and bloom of discord. Joseph's Reno crew landed a Hamptons gig, weekends apart stretched. Anthony filled voids with work, until a client dinner unearthed the pack link. A colleague slurred, 3 whiskeys deep, heard you're cozy with the rainbow crowd. Hope it doesn't queer the deal. Rage simmered, but Anthony smiled through, fleeing to the restroom to vomit. Calling Joseph, I compromised. For the firm, Joseph's silence deafened. For us? Or them? The fight erupted that night. Words like shrapnel. Joseph's, you're ashamed. Anthony's, I'm surviving. Door slammed. Joseph crashed at a buddy's. Days blurred agony. Anthony haunted bars, nursing regrets, until Marcus dragged him to a queer open mic in the village. Poets spilling hearts, guitars strumming truth. A line hooked, love's not a contract. It's the breach that sets you free. He showed at Joseph's sight dawn next. Hard hat in hand, coffee steaming. I quit the pack. Took a pay hit. But you're worth more than any win. Joseph, sawdust in hair, pulled him into a supply closet. Kisses dusty, fervent. Idiot. My hero. Reconciliation deepened intimacy. A weekend in Fire Island. Dunes whispering secrets. Bodies entwined under stars. Joseph's touches mapped new territories. Slow, reverent whispers of mine blending with waves. Yet summer storms gathered. Danny relapsed. A frantic call shattering a barbecue. Joey, I OD'd. Hospital. They raced to Philly. Joseph's face ashen. In the sterile room, tubes snaking, Danny rasped, sorry, bro. Couldn't hack it. Joseph broke then, sobbing into Anthony's shoulder. He was my only blood. Vigil stretched nights. Anthony fielded calls, balanced Joseph's grief with his own caseload. Back in Brooklyn, healing was tentative, therapy doubling, Joseph's hands trembling on tools. What if I drag you down? You lift me, Anthony vowed, sealing with a kiss that tasted of salt and steel. Fall crescendoed with opportunity. Joseph's crew pitched a community center Reno, the same where Sarah and he met, now a queer youth hub. Anthony volunteered legal pro bono, drafting grants. Groundbreaking ceremony. Shovels in earth, rainbow flags snapping, Sarah toasting with sparkling cider, baby Mia cooing in arms. But climax crested in November chill. Anonymous email to the firm. Leaked docs from the PAC deal, twisted to paint Anthony as conflicted counsel, pushing personal politics. Probe launched. Suspension loomed. Confrontation at Joseph's. It's sabotage. Someone from the old guard. Joseph paced. Fury etching lines. Fight it. You're clean. I am. But the optics. Doubt crept. Old fears. Then revelation. IP traced to Danny's burner. Relapse revenge. Docs pilfered from Joseph's phone during a visit. Betrayal's double edge. Family turned foe again. They stormed Philly, finding Danny in a dive motel, gaunt and glassy-eyed. You ratted, Joseph roared. fists clenched. Danny shrugged, defeated. Wanted you to hurt like I did. Clean slate, bull. Anthony, voice calm thunder. Hurt us. You hurt him. Rehab or jail, your call. Danny crumpled, nodding. Cops called. Cuffs clicked merciful. Back home. Catharsis. Joseph's tears on Anthony's chest. I thought blood was thicker. Sometimes chosen families' glue holds stronger. Anthony's words. A bomb. Winter wrapped gentle now. Thanksgiving at Sarah's. Mia's giggles. Joseph's carved turkey. Dad called tentative. Proud of you, son. Even if it's different. Climax's echo faded, but scars lingered, teaching resilience. As snow dusted the brownstone stoop in December hush, Anthony and Joseph turned the page. Literally, with a joint blog, Blueprints for Love, chronicling their twists from denial to dawn. Posts garnered follows. Lawyers nodding, contractors chiming. A queer kid in Ohio dmang. You give me hope. Firm probe cleared Anthony. Docs debunked as forgeries. Old guard reprimanded. He emerged leaner, landing boutique firm gigs focused on civil rights. Billables balanced with life. Joseph's Reno empire grew. Queer-owned. Hiring ex-felons like a reformed Danny. Now sober in group therapy. Full circle. He quipped over coffee. Eyes bright. Spring bloomed engagements. Not rings, but plans, a wedding in Prospect Park. Vows under the oaks where they'd first walked hand in hold. Invites sent. Sarah as best woman. Mia flower girl. Anthony's folks RSVPing yes. Tentative bridges. But humanism's heartbeat in quiet moments. One June Eve. After a youth center workshop, Anthony on coming out legalese, Joseph on building safe spaces, they lingered in the garden plot, hands dirt-streaked planting tomatoes. Remember that first rain? Joseph asked, wiping brow. Anthony grinned, pulling him close. Hook, line, sinker, their kiss, earth-scented, sealed it, from confrontation's storm to this verdant peace. Summer solstice brought the ceremony. Sun dappling leaves. String quartet playing Billie Holiday. Guests in seersucker and sundresses. Vows exchanged. Joseph's, you saw me when I was just bricks and mortar. Anthony's, you built the home I never knew I needed. Reception spilled laughter. Dad's toast. Gruff but genuine. To love that defies the script. Mom dabbing eyes. Sarah, Mia on hip, whispered, happily ever after. Aunt, honeymoon in the Berkshires. Cabin by a brook, days hiking, nights stargazing, bodies entwined in flannel sheets. Joseph's fingers traced wedding band, simple gold, etched with twist. Nobody predicted this, he murmured. Nobody but us, Anthony replied, heart full. Years wove forward. The brownstone expanded. A nursery for adopted twins. Stories of foster echoes. Anthony's book deal, Unexpected Turns. A memoir of love and law, topped indie lists. Proceeds to youth hubs. Joseph's firm franchised. Blueprints for belonging. Betrayal's faded scars. Conflicts forged steel. Danny, Uncle now. Sober milestones celebrated with cake and cautious hugs. In the end, not fairy tale gloss, but American grit, two men. Hands laced across a kitchen table littered with blueprints and briefs. Watching sunset gild the skyline. Love's turn. Predicted only in hindsight. Humanistic in its messy grace. Proof that from confrontation's ashes, phoenixes rise, wings wide over the burrows. And on rainy nights, when thunder rolled like that first storm, they'd pull close, whispering, "What a plot!"